Welcome to my show. I'm with a guest here. Her name is Samantha DeMarco. Mrs. Samantha, how are you doing, ma?
I'm doing great today. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much, Mrs. Samantha. Firstly, you are a life coach. Can you please, Mrs. Samantha,
Correct.
discuss more about yourself and how you are doing currently now, Mrs. Samantha?
Yeah, so right now I'm in the process of building my coaching program. I'm really passionate about helping people go from struggling with a fixed based mindset where they feel really stuck and unable to move forward to a growth-based mindset that helps people to see that there's always potential and there's always some place that they can go. And I'm passionate about this because it worked for me. And I spent most of my life anxious, miserable, stressed, worrying. And so the fact that I can live my life now where I feel confident, happy, sure of myself, and my anxious thoughts have quieted down, it makes me believe that anybody can get there if they have the right tools.
That is absolutely true. Since you've gotten there, you face all the struggles and you actually overcome. It is now in a position to be as a coach as you've done to build something that will make people to be inspired and also those that are facing the same struggles or the same setback because it is really tough in our time currently. So those that are facing such type of patterns, you can be able to guide them and tell them you can do it this way and it will definitely help you in the long way. And as for book, because as the experience you've had through the struggles and other things you want forward, do you think you're planning on a book or writing a book in the coming future, Mrs. Samantha?
It's actually interesting that you say that because I am in the process of editing my first draft of my book that I wrote. I finished my rough draft last week. And so, right before I jumped on this call, actually, I was going through and editing some of the chapters. So, my goal is by no later than the end of 2026 to have it out. So, I want to make sure that I really give it the time and attention that it needs to make everything, flow and make sure that I'm sharing my story in a way that hopefully inspires other people to know that they can get through those things too. And tentatively going to call it From Surviving to Thriving, because I think that kind of describes my life where I've spent most of my life in survival mode. And now, the past 4.5, 5 months, I've really gotten into my groove to where I'm absolutely thriving. And I have no doubt that that will continue.
Mhm. And I totally agree. It's not easy to write a book, to make it to be in the best shape, to make it to bring out the great message that you're trying to pass across to the people who are willing to read it. It takes a lot of time and a lot of refreshing, I think, reviewing before trying to, bring it out to people to read. So I totally understand that. We definitely hope
Yes, it
that
takes a lot of
definitely
time for
come.
sure.
Yes.
But, for anybody that does want to do something where they want to try writing or take on a really, really big task, what I did was I broke it down into something smaller and I set myself just a daily goal to write one paragraph a day. And as long as I wrote at least one paragraph a day, I met my goal. But I also found that as soon as I started typing, I would end up getting more than that done. But knowing that, okay, I just have to do one and I've reached my goal. Anything more is above that. And you can really do that with any goal that you're trying to reach. Just break it down into little bit of smaller pieces for your daily goals.
And it will help us to not get to the point whereby we are burned out, and it will help us to relax well because when writing something, the brain has to be very, very free. So when someone has the sense of relaxation and projecting, as you said, with what you've done, one chapter per day, then one can definitely relax the brain. Then the next day come back again. When the brain is fresh, more ideas, new things comes out, and it could make the book be
Exactly.
in a very, very good shape. So I totally understand that. I also like to dive to people or listeners who could listen to this episode that are weighed down by their struggles. How do you think they can begin to see resilience not as being unbreakable, but as ability to bend and rise again, Mrs. Samantha?
Yeah, so there's something that I've learned throughout my life, and more recently, the past few years since I lost my mom, which was like one of the most difficult things that I've ever been through. But she would always teach me that no matter what's going on, no matter what bad things are happening, that you have to look for the good. And for a while, that didn't make sense for me to me because I'm like, okay, my mom passed away. There's nothing good about that. Like, there's zero good side that I can think of to any of those things. There's a lot of terrible things that happen in life. And looking for the good doesn't necessarily mean that we have to be positive about that situation. Looking for good means what are the things that are in your life that light you up? So, what are the things that you know for sure make you happy? What are the things that you know you enjoy doing? Who are the people that you like to be around? What is the music that you like to listen to? What do you like to do for fun? When you can add those things into your life as much as possible and make a conscious decision to say, no matter what's going on, I still know there's good things going on in my life. When those bad things happen, you don't feel as weighed down by them. You don't feel as hopeless by them because sometimes when we get into a really difficult season of our lives, we start to feel hopeless and we feel like that pain is never going to end. And then, yeah, resilience, it almost feels like I'm just constantly being crushed and trying to squeeze my way out of there. But for me, when I started to actively think about, well, what brings me joy in my life? What types of things do I know lift my spirit? Then it made it so much easier for me to start bouncing back. And resilience wasn't just me climbing out from, the crushing weight of the stress of everything I was dealing with, but it became a way of bouncing back for me with joy in my life.
That shows that we have to try our best to look at the part of joy. What makes us happy? What keeps us motivated? Because when the hard time comes, because the hard time is really tough, as you said earlier, one can even believe that I don't think I'm going to get out of the situation. It is just too much on me. And those are the time we are going to embrace the sense of the joy, what we find for fun, what we see that will do that gives us joy, that gives us motivation and to continue to strengthen us to become more better and more reliable in the life we find ourselves. And also, and the generation we are today, I usually hear that they'll say we are in the Gen Z generation. So in the generation we are today, many people are isolated. Isolation is something that is more common now in our time currently. So for those who feel isolated with their struggles, what would you suggest as the ways to build supportive connection that nurture the resilience, Mr. Samantha?
Yeah, I would say it's important to find your people. So, one of the things that I recommend is even when you're online, be mindful of the content that you're engaging with. Because if you're struggling with something, you can find people that are online that might be struggling with the same thing, find connections, somebody that might be coming across this podcast right now. They might connect to somebody. I am one that's always open for new people reaching out to me that feel that they've connected with my story and they want to talk further. I think that our people are out there, but we have to also be open to finding those people because sometimes isolation becomes comfortable, where it's what we know, even though it's making us feel a little bit miserable. That misery that we know feels a little bit safer than potentially being rejected by somebody new or not being able to, connect. So I would say find your people, find the people that support you. I'm sure there are some friends in everybody's life that understand that mental health is an ongoing struggle and who will be there for you and be patient with you. Invest in those relationships. If you connect to something that somebody says online, leave a comment. Let them know that you connected with that. Share a little bit of your story because I found so many different connections just online from interacting with different people's posts who have shared their stories, connected in DMs. We live in a world where we can be very isolated, But if we choose to, we can use the internet and we can use social media in a way that makes us feel a little bit more connected. And then the other thing is that it's okay to avoid people that are not your people. Not everybody is going to understand your struggles. Not everybody has the capacity to be patient or to be empathetic. I've been in relationships like that, I'm struggling with my anxiety, and the person that I'm with is making it more difficult on me by pointing out the obvious that I'm struggling with my anxiety rather than being a support system. So it's important to know who your people are and to make a conscious effort to invest into those relationships, even if it's just, a parasocial relationship online where you're commenting on each other's posts, but there's a connection there. But it's also important to know who are not your people. And that might be family members, and that's okay. And it doesn't mean that you have to avoid them all the time, but you have to understand that they're not the people to go to for support when you're struggling.
And that is totally acceptable and true, to be honest. It goes back to us being trying our best to know how to reach out to people. Our people are always out there. We do know that the world is being isolated, but the tool we have, and that is why I usually say it, we should try our best to use the tools we have in the right way. If we try our best to use it well, I think it will work well for every single one of us. And reaching out to people and seeing things, because as you said, some people might not understand our struggles. We can avoid that, but they would definitely. There are more
And
than
it might not
millions.
even be your struggles too.
Yeah.
Like you might be interested in something. Like maybe you have a special interest and you want to be able to share that with other people. Like for me, as silly as it seems, I love the Backstreet Boys. So anytime I can connect with my friends and I can talk about the Backstreet Boys, plan for a concert, you know, think about outfits, it's a shared interest that my friends and I are able to connect over. And then because we have that shared interest and we spend time together and we talk, we develop a deeper connection where we're able to support each other, through those difficult times. So even if it's something that it doesn't have to be you connected with somebody online over your mental health. It could be like, hey, they went to a Comic-Con and you thought that was really cool and that's something that you would want to do. But that's a way to look for the good as well while you're also looking to connect with your people is find the things that you enjoy doing. And I promise you, there are other people out there that enjoy those same things. Like there are other weirdos out there like me that are 41 years old and love the Backstreet Boys. Trust me.
I totally agree. It can't be only you. It can never be only
Right.
you. There will be a lot of people on the internet, even on the social media, that will like the Black Sheep Boys, as you said earlier, and other things. So it's not only the struggles; it's also gaining or building some sense of ideas, gaining some sense of
Mhm.
communication that will really become more valuable or impactful. Because when we make connections, it's also a sense of healing. It's also a sense because we are in a position whereby we tell people you tell people things, we gain idea, and those things also help our health in a very, very huge way. And also, I would like to dive to those who have setback in their mental health journey. Setback is something that I don't think there is no one on earth who wants to proceed to do a lot of things in life who won't face something called setback. So, what do you think it looks like to move from simply enduring challenges to thriving beyond them, Mrs. Samantha?
So when you're just enduring a challenge, you're just taking everything that comes your way and you're just allowing all of that heaviness to rest on your shoulders without doing anything with it. So it just gets heavier and heavier and heavier. At some point in our mental health journey, we have to be willing to actually take a couple of steps forward. And the most important thing for me is to make sure you have the right help and the right support system, especially during setbacks. There was a period while I was going through my divorce, a period of time gosh, back in January of this year, where my mental health took a complete nosedive. I was under so much stress from trying to leave an abusive relationship. And I couldn't really wrap my head around it. So I became hyper fixated on my hair to where my hair was bugging me. I felt like it was getting stuck on my ears. I felt like it was getting stuck on my face and my mouth. And it was just something that consumed my time so much so that like I couldn't function anymore. I couldn't work. I had to go to the doctor because I was afraid I was swallowing hair. And she's like, "You're not, I think that you're extremely stressed out and I think you need a break. And I think you need to, get some intensive help because you've been through a lot." And ultimately, I had to go out on temporary disability from work because I could no longer both focus on trying to get my mental health better and also divide my time between my work. I had to admit myself inpatient for a week, which was one of the scariest things that I've ever had to do. But it was necessary because I was struggling so much just to get through every single day. I was struggling to eat. I was struggling to sleep. Like I had lost so much weight that, I was skin and bones. So eventually I realized, okay, even though I'm not working right now, I still can't even get myself to therapy because I'm in such bad shape. I need to do something dramatic and I need to get myself inpatient so that I can get stabilized and on a better routine and get myself in there. So I was inpatient for a week and it was, I mean, at first I cried for like 2 days straight because I was so scared and they take everything from you so you don't have any of your comforts. And then little by little, I started to work the program and started to thrive there. And when I was discharged, I continued with an intensive outpatient therapy program and followed that through all the way until I actually moved to Florida and got away from my relationship. And the most important thing, I think, instead of just taking all the stress that was coming on me and letting it destroy me, because it was close to destroying me. I was so sick, but I decided to fight for myself. And I think that is really key is that we have to make a choice to say, I know I can get better and I'm going to fight for myself and do whatever it is that I need to do in order to get myself there, even if it's the really hard thing, because it was really hard to say, okay, I'm going to take off of work and take a pay cut. And I'm going to go and have my phone and everything else taken away from me and go inpatient in a really scary environment. But it was necessary for me in order to be one out of the house that I was in that was a very toxic environment and wasn't conducive for me to get better. It was just adding to that. So I had to remove myself from the environment and then get myself the help that I needed and be willing to fight for myself. And I think that makes the difference in whether something destroys you or whether you are able to fight through that is your willingness to fight for yourself. Because if you're willing to fight for yourself, you'll do just about anything and you'll keep going and you'll keep going until you get to the point where you're like, wow, I've come a really long way.
And that is absolutely true. And the beauty is that it goes back to we the humans as a matter of choice. If we choose to overcome the challenges that we find right at the front of us, I think we'll get to a point whereby we overcome it and we'll come back stronger. And the beauty about challenges is that when we come out of those situations, I think we come back to a sense whereby we're more stronger. And if we face such type of pattern again, it won't look like that time when such situation happened to us before. So no matter how deep the thing is, no matter how cage or how bonded, I used to call it bondage. The thing is, we should have the strength to say, I choose to continue to push. I choose to continue to see what I can do to get out of this. Find every single ways I know I can do. If it's for me to reach out and talk to people, I will do that. And if we can continue to do that, I think the development starts to come in, which is so much beautiful and inspiring, to be honest with you. I would
I
also like
agree.
to I would also like to drive to one powerful truth because about so if you could share one powerful truth about from the experience you've had as a person who has overcome a lot of personal struggles. So if you could share one powerful truth about mental health and resilience you've discovered from the experience you've had that the listeners could carry into their daily lives, Mrs. Samantha. What do you think it will be, Mrs. Samantha?
If I were going to share one powerful truth,
Yeah.
it would be that mental illness doesn't have to be a weakness. It can be something that you can turn into a strength. That the resilience that you've built because you have struggled with something, the understanding of other people that we have because we have also experienced those things. I don't look at my struggles with my mental health as weaknesses in me. And I think that sometimes we have a tendency to be going through a hard time and feeling bad. And then we add on top of that, making ourselves feel bad for feeling bad. So we're getting down on ourselves for the fact that we're feeling down. And it's like, why am I going to make myself feel worse about the fact that I'm feeling bad right now? If I can just accept that this is how I'm feeling right now and ask myself, okay, what can I do to help myself feel just a little bit better? Because fighting for yourself is going to look different every single day. Some days you're going to have a lot more energy and will in you. And those are the days that you make sure you're reaching out to people, talking to your support system, letting people know what you need. And on the days that you're struggling, sometimes it might just be, hey, I got out of bed and I took a shower today, and that's still a win. But you've got to look at those things as different wins. But your mental illness doesn't have to be something that is looked at as a weakness. You can take the things that, that you experience. For example, a lot of us with mental illness have a higher sense of empathy than the average person, especially people that have struggled with like anxiety and depression and have really gone through it. We see the world in a way where we also recognize other people's pain and we're able to empathize with that in a way that not everybody else can. Like, I've had people in my life that are completely incapable of empathizing with me or another person. And I think that's so sad, that you can't for a moment put yourself into someone else's shoes and imagine how they might be feeling going through that. I feel like with our mental health, when we've had struggles with it, it makes us more in tune to others who are also struggling with those things. And to me, my sensitivity, because of my mental health, I have ADHD, which makes me a little bit more emotional than the average person. And so I get emotionally dysregulated a little bit more easily. But I'm also able to tune into other people's emotions and feelings a lot easier than other people can. And it's just because I've been so in tune with mine my whole life. You pick up on that energy of other people. So I would just say find your strengths, even within your mental illness. It's not something that has to be a weakness because all of us have strengths within that. And it may be empathy, it may be something else, it may be resilience, whatever it is that is a strength in that, try to focus on that and don't make yourself feel bad for feeling bad. Like if you feel down, if you feel anxious, just recognize and accept, I feel down today. I feel anxious today. And it's just a feeling. And this is what I'm going to do because of that.
I think despite the challenges one has faced in life, I think if one can recognize this little thing that you said, Mrs. Samantha, I think the person will be in a very, very good shape because the challenges will come. And it is when we accept it, we are going to be in a position we look for solutions regarding those pain. We shouldn't be upset with the pain that we have. And if we are in that position, I think, and I agree with you, one that has more struggles and challenges in life tends to be more empathetic and stuff like that. I think that is how the pattern is because they've seen it, they've felt it, and they know how it looks like. So they do know how hurtful it is. So I totally agree with you with that also, Mrs. Samantha, which is very beautiful in its own way. I would also like to drive
And
to
I
the point.
think too,
Okay.
we can ask ourselves, I think one thing, important thing to ask yourself when you're struggling, like if you're feeling anxious, you're feeling down, or you're crying, just ask, what is this trying to tell me? What's my mind and body trying to tell me that I need right now? Do I need comfort? Do I need sleep? Do I need food? Do I need exercise? Because very often the feelings that we're having are communicating something to us that we need.
True. True. We have to know that no matter how things is, it's communicating something that this is what you need to understand. This is what one needs to know. Then we can assimilate and get those message into our head. I think it also helps us in many ways in the development and also the healing process for us to become more stronger. Mrs. Samantha, there's also a question I normally ask during the end of the show, Mrs. Samantha. From our forefathers, from our ancestors, there are a lot of beautiful things that do exist during our ancestral time that is missing in our time today. If there is anyone or anything you would like to bring back to our time today, Mrs. Samantha, what do you think that thing would be, Mrs. Samantha?
Oh man, I think that one of the things that we could bring back is the safety of being able to be outside as kids by ourselves. I remember, you know, when we were younger, when our parents were younger, we were outside a lot more often. Our parents didn't need to be hanging over us all the time. They didn't have to watch over. They didn't need to have a reason to be fearful of what could potentially happen to us. It was kind of that, okay, I'm gonna go bike riding, and when the street lights come on, that's when you come home. And I think that being able to just have that freedom where we can go out and we can be with other people, especially when we're younger, where we don't have to be under constant watch. I think that made a big difference for us, especially getting outside. Like nowadays, if the kids want to go outside, if they want to ride bikes, like their parents got to be right there with them. It's hard to just like get on your bike and go down to your friend's house and see if they're home and knock on their door, see if they want to go bike riding. The world is not as safe as it used to be. And I think that if we had the ability to spend more time outdoors without having to be afraid of everything that is going on these days, that we would experience more happiness in our lives if we were spending less time inside, less time stuck to our devices, and more time outside doing different activities, that we'd find ourselves happier. So I actually make it a point in my life to be outside every single day. Even if it's raining, I'll sit underneath an awning and I'll get myself some fresh air because that is very healing to you. And so I think it's not something from super long ago, just something from my childhood that I remember spending so much more time outside. And I think that fresh air and the sunshine is so good for our mental health that even if it's just 10 minutes a day, just go sit outside for 10 minutes, let the sun come on your face. That vitamin D is good for you.
True. And that is the beauty, in this life that we are currently, we do know that every single person that in the device, and I do remember, even if I'm a very young person, I do remember when I was very young. I don't know how engaging and interesting it was during that time. And those time there was more happiness, there was more peace. We could go out to anywhere, and I think going outside is really missing our time. We have to watch over because of what we see on the internet and things that happen. We have to watch over our kids, things like that. We have to try our best to make sure everything is safe and stuff like that. I think those things are also one thing that also hinders many happiness. But we do hope in the coming future we do gain more things and things that will really help us to be more fulfilled and more happier. Not something that will cause more pain, challenges, and more sorrow into our life. I also want to use this opportunity, Mrs. Samantha, to thank you for the opportunity on discussing on challenges. Challenges is something every single person will face. But how do we try our best to conquer these challenges and become more stronger? That is always the question. Thank you so much, Mrs. Samantha.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Mrs. Samantha. Have a wonderful day, Mrs. Samantha. Bye bye.